Welcome to Project Management Hardcore episode number 9. So we've hit 9, close to 10, almost there. Today we're going to talk about leadership and the differences between leadership and a leader and a manager, and how that affects a project. We've talked about leadership a couple of times during some of the other episodes, but today we're going to talk about only leadership and managers, and give you some examples and show you the difference between the two, and also show you what you really need to do as a project manager. It's not easy sometimes, but leadership is what really drives the project forward and keeps everybody on board and keeps the faith in what you're doing. So that makes a difference, obviously. So let's talk about it first. I know in the first episode I talked about in the Marines what leadership was. I'll do a little bit about that right now. Obviously, you can manage and plan a mission and decide exactly what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, what the end state's got to be. Same as in a project, you need to figure out what your end state's going to be, and you need to define that end state, and obviously that's done in the scope. Same thing as a mission, right? What's the end state going to be? Could be a humanitarian mission, so the end state would be everybody, how many people are fed, how many people are back to normal life, etc. Or obviously, to take a hill or something is a whole different story. So even though you've planned it all and you've managed everything, you've got to make sure the supplies are there, part of management, right? If you have to make sure there's enough water and food and ammunition, all management. But that ends once you get out into the field, once you start executing the mission. Now it's leadership that counts. You're out there making decisions. You're out there motivating everybody to go on and to move. And you've got to have that confidence in what you're doing and the end state of the mission in order for you to succeed. Remember we talked about the Tony Robbins firewalks, right? So when you are standing there with your bare feet right in front of, I think one of them, I know the first one I think is 10 feet of coals, and if you go to the other classes, I think it's 20 feet of coals or something close to that. You have to see yourself on the other end. That's one of the things you have to do. So everything in between, you're barreling through, but you're focused on the other end. Same as a project. You're focused on that end state. And as a Marine in the mission, you're focused on that end state. And you have to see yourself, and you have to know you're going to get to the end of those coals without burned feet. You're going to walk right through, nothing's going to happen. You're going to get to the end of that mission, and you're going to succeed. You're going to get to the end of that project, to that end state, and you're going to succeed. And everybody has to see that in you. That by focusing on that, by not letting anything stop you, regardless of what it is, by not letting anything change your emotional states. You can't lead people by telling them you're scared or you're depressed, or, that stuff is contagious. So you're making decisions when they come up, whether it's a Marine in the field. Things aren't going to go as planned. They never do. But the people on your team are looking to you to make quick decisions to get back on track. Or what are we going to do? How are we going to get back on track? How are we going to keep going? Is this going to slow down the project? And they're looking to you for that confidence and to make those decisions to move on. Something goes wrong, make a call, figure something out. That's what a leader does. He doesn't stop, and he doesn't complain, and he doesn't share his emotions with everybody. He just figures out a way to keep things going. I said this story in one of the earlier episodes, but there was one department that wouldn't come on board and wouldn't help out in one of the projects I was managing and leading. And so I decided, okay, then if you're not going to do that, then I'll have a meeting with all your people in the rest of the country, and I'll figure out with them what the next step is. Well, as soon as I saw that meeting come up, they immediately assigned someone to work with me full-time on the project. So it didn't say, well, now we can't do it, now we can't get it done. It didn't say a word. I just took action and got things moving. I didn't know exactly what the results are going to be, but you have to keep taking action until you get the results you want. You just can't sit there and do nothing and delay the project. That's what a leader does. A leader also trusts all his people. So if you're in the field, and let's say a Marine platoon has 3 squads, and each squad has a squad leader, and then they have fire teams of 4 people each in the squads, and each one of those fire teams has a leader as well, fire team leader. Well, you have to trust them to make decisions. You have to hand down the authority. You have to trust. If they come upon some sort of problem that they have to get around, well, you have to give them the authority to make those decisions. Same as a project. I said earlier, everybody on your project, if they're at a company or at an agency, they're an adult. They can run meetings, which will speed up the project. You can be running one meeting, they can be running another meeting, they can do acquisitions, they can do anything. And that comes from being a good leader, trusting your people to do their job. If they ask for help, then you give them help. If they don't ask for help, let them do their job. I remember one project asking one of the core team members, do you have experience doing acquisitions, and can you do the acquisitions for the project? And they said, yeah. I never said another word after that to them. Didn't have to. They managed the entire thing. They led the folks involved in the acquisition, and all the acquisitions were on time. Everything worked out well. If I hadn't let that person do their job, if I micromanaged, then maybe things would have been different. But that is part of leadership as well, trusting the people that work for you. The squad leader trusts his fire team leaders. The platoon leader trusts his squad leaders. And you have to. And by trust, that also means that giving them the authority to make decisions. Some project managers want to hold on to all the power. They want to be at every meeting. They want to see everything that happens. Why? That's because you're not really being an effective leader and trusting the folks on your project. There's no glory or fame in controlling everything. If the project is successful, you will be looked upon as a successful project manager. It doesn't make a difference how many people did the different jobs or the different tasks on the project. If you have 4 different people on your project that are doing very well in 4 different areas, one's doing acquisitions, one is running some meetings, one's working with a particular part of the company or the agency and getting them to do their job. Let's say there's 4 or 5 people doing different things like that. When that all works, you were the leader, you were the project manager. You will be successful. Upper management will look at you as being successful. And the folks you led will love to work with you because you don't tie their hands. You let them do their job. You can manage the resources, manage the time schedule, manage the costs. But if you don't lead and let people do their job and take action and make decisions quickly, then things may not work out and you're not doing your job as a leader. So those are some of the key things a leader does. He doesn't micromanage. He allows people to do their job. He doesn't have to be there all the time and watch them. He doesn't have to do all the work. You're a facilitator. You're facilitating the experts to do their job on the project. You're facilitating the folks to use the resources. You don't have to be an expert on any of those things. You just have to lead them. And they have to have confidence in your leadership and your ability to take action and make quick decisions. I'd rather make 2 quick decisions and get quick results that aren't good so I can make another decision quickly. You're never going to know everything 100%. So a leader should know that nothing's going to be 100%. The Marine Corps goes for 70% because things are going to change anyway once everything starts. So as long as you're 70% planned, 70% there, then move. Start executing the project. Start getting things done. Start communicating to people. That is an effective leader. The person who has to have everything, know every single thing, have everything 100, all the knowledge, all the analysis, remember they used to say analysis paralysis? That's exactly what happens. It paralyzes the project. So the person who has to have all those things is insecure. You don't have to know everything. 70% is good enough to move because during that project, if you've got the common sense to make decisions, to take this course of action, action A, action B, action C, when things don't go right. But you've also got the people on your core team out there doing their job. You've given them the responsibility, and it's up to them to produce their deliverables, whatever they may be, whether it's acquisition, whether it's getting everybody to focus on a certain task in a certain part of the company or agency. You don't have to be there. Let them do their job. And then you'll be an effective leader. So it's not a tough thing to understand, but I hope I've made the difference between being a leader and a manager clear. A leader is a lot about the emotions and trusting people and making decisions and your attitude and seeing yourself in the end state regardless of what comes up. You're managing the resources, you're managing the schedules, you're managing the timeline, you're managing the meetings. You can manage a meeting your meetings by setting them up, but during the meeting, you're leading. You may be managing the agenda, but you're still leading. If someone goes off into a tangent that has nothing to do with the agenda, you've got to lead them back. You've got to have the guts to do that, to interrupt, and to tell them, we can talk about this afterwards, we can have a meeting on the side, we can take this offline. But someone who just sits there and lets that go on, that could take up the whole time, and now you've accomplished nothing that you had in your agenda. So you manage meetings, you set them up, you schedule them, you invite the right people to them. But during the meeting, you're leading the meeting. And facilitating is part of leading as well. You facilitate people, resources, conversations, agendas, and that keeps everybody on track. But the main thing is the folks on your core team and all the stakeholders have to have 100% trust in you, and that comes from good leadership. Regardless what happens, they know you're going to get them through and you're going to get them to the other side. And now last but not least is the most important thing about leadership. And we're almost done here, but this is what I wanted to leave for last. The main thing is you always come last. When you're leading, you always come last, and everybody else on your team, on your core team, on the project comes first. The Marine Corps taught us that almost immediately. And the way they did it is, if you're the officer in charge, or the staff sergeant in charge, or the gunny in charge, when you eat, when you go to the mess hall, you eat last. In the field, you eat last. Everybody in your squadron, in your platoon, whoever you're leading, they go first. Even if it's a picnic or something like that, you always eat last. And so think about that in the project. You come last. The people in your project come first. The stakeholders come first. The resources come first. And what does that really mean? You're really coming last? No, you're not thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about your emotions. You're not thinking about, how it's going to work out for you. It's how it's going to work out for everyone else. The folks doing the work, they come first. What they need comes first. If you put everybody ahead of you, the stakeholders, the project, and everything, well, then the project will, at that point, come first and do well. That's what a good leader does. He eats last. Everybody eats before he eats. That's what a good leader does. And that is the state of mind that you need to be in. And that's what makes the difference. Well, that's it for today. Looks like it's a little shorter than last time, but not that much shorter. And looks like we're going to be looking at doing some interviews of some famous project managers in the next couple of weeks. Everybody does things differently and has different philosophies, so it's good for you to hear a bunch of different philosophies. I try to make it as practical as possible and simplify it. I'm the type of person who says, if you need to get to Z, well, you do A, B, C, D, E. These are the things you do physically or mentally to get to those spots. There's other people who do things differently, so we'll talk to some of those. Now, if you need to get a hold of me, besides the Twitter account I told you about, I've also added a Gmail account, so pmhardcore@gmail.com. pmhardcorps, all one word, at gmail.com. Just drop me a line, tell me what you think, and if you have any questions or want to know what's coming up, just drop me a line. Love to hear from you. You all have a great rest of the day. Have a great time managing your projects, and don't forget, be a great leader. Take care.